There's this silent story unfolding inside millions of us. It's kind of this slow motion drama of damage, response, and, well, repair gone completely wrong. It's the story of arteriosclerosis, and today we're going to break down exactly how it all happens, step by fascinating step. Whoa, okay. At first glance, this whole diagram looks incredibly complicated, right? But honestly, you can think of it as the story of a massive traffic jam happening on the highways inside your body. And to really get it, we just need to go right back to the beginning. So, Section 1, the body's superhighway. First things first, let's set the scene and take a look at what a healthy artery is supposed to be doing. To understand what goes wrong, we first have to see what right looks like. So I want you to imagine your artery is a brand new, perfectly smooth, high-speed highway. Just pristine, designed for blood to flow super efficiently. Now, every highway has its traffic, and we've got some key players to meet. First up, the road surface itself. That's the endothelium, a super smooth lining that's only 1 cell thick. Then you've got the cargo trucks. These are the LDL cholesterol particles, carrying essential fats. We also have patrol cars. Those are monocytes, immune cells that are just, keeping an eye on things. And finally, the road crew, smooth muscle cells, just hanging out in the deeper layers of the artery wall, ready to make repairs if needed. So in a healthy system, this all just works. It's perfect. But things can and definitely do go wrong, which brings us to Section 2, a breach in the wall. This is where the incident really begins. It all starts with a crack in the pavement. Seriously, if you look over on the left of the diagram here, you can see where the endothelium, our road surface, gets damaged. Now, this can be caused by all sorts of things, like high blood pressure, smoking, or high blood sugar. And this damage creates a breach in the artery's protective wall. Okay, so now we have a breach, and some of those LDL cargo trucks start to slip through the cracks and get stuck where they absolutely do not belong, inside the artery wall itself. But here's where the real problem starts. Once they're inside, they get chemically changed by these molecules called reactive oxygen species. Think of it like the cargo just spoiling. This new stuff is now called oxidized LDL, and your body sees it as a toxic, foreign invader. This toxic spill, as you can imagine, triggers an emergency response, which leads us to Section 3, the immune system's mistake. Because as we're about to see, this well-intentioned response is deeply, deeply flawed. The body sounds the alarm. The damaged cells start releasing these chemical signals. You can think of them like emergency flares, basically screaming for help and calling in a professional cleanup crew. And the cleanup crew arrives. First, our monocyte patrol cars rush to the scene. Once they get there, they transform into these heavy-duty cleaning machines called macrophages. Their whole job is to eat all that toxic oxidized LDL. And this is the critical mistake, they don't know when to stop. They just gorge themselves, eating and eating until they become bloated, totally immobile, and trapped right there inside the artery wall. And this thing has a name. It's called a foam cell. It's not a helpful macrophage anymore. It's a fat, engorged cell that has become a huge part of the problem. These foam cells, they are the toxic inflammatory foundation for the plaque that's about to form. Now, these trapped foam cells, they don't just sit there quietly. Oh no, they escalate the problem. Welcome to Section 4, building a fibrous plaque. This is basically the body's desperate attempt to cover up this growing mess. So the foam cells are in big trouble, and they start sending out even more distress signals. These are chemicals called growth factors. This is a call for major backup, and they're specifically calling for our road crew, the smooth muscle cells. So what is actually inside this plaque that's growing? Well, you've got a toxic core of those foam cells. You've got the smooth muscle cells that moved in from the deeper layer. You've got a whole web of connective tissue they're building to try and wall everything off. And you've got other immune cells, like T lymphocytes, which just keep the fire of inflammation burning. So what's happening is the road crew, those smooth muscle cells, is trying to build a patch over this entire messy, toxic situation. And as you can see developing right here in the diagram, this patch becomes the fibrous plaque. It's the body's best attempt to just contain the problem. But the result of all this frantic construction? The highway itself starts to narrow. The plaque literally bulges into the artery, and the space for traffic, for your blood, to flow through gets smaller and smaller and smaller. Okay, so the highway is narrower. That's a chronic traffic problem for sure, but that is not the real danger, not even close. Section 5, an unstable ticking bomb. The real, life-threatening danger is what this plaque can become. And this is such a crucial point. Even when the artery is narrower, blood can often still squeeze its way through. So what is the catastrophic danger that actually leads to heart attacks and strokes? What's the deal? The danger all comes down to the plaque's stability. See, a stable plaque has a nice, thick, strong, fibrous cap holding everything in. But an unstable plaque, the truly dangerous kind, has a very thin, fragile cap covering a huge, soupy, toxic core of lipids and dead cells. It's super inflamed, it gets brittle, and sometimes it even has bits of calcium in it that make it even more likely to just crack under the pressure of every single heartbeat. And this instability, this fragility, it leads directly to the final act, Section 6, when the plaque ruptures, the catastrophe. Just like an old, brittle road surface that finally gives way, that thin cap just breaks open. It ruptures, and this exposes that highly toxic, clot-promoting core directly to the blood that's flowing by. Your body's emergency systems go into absolute overdrive. It thinks there has been a massive injury to the vessel, and its one and only goal is to stop the bleeding at all costs. To do that, it forms a huge blood clot, called a thrombus, to try and seal that breach. But this well-intentioned clot is the final disastrous event. Over on the far right of our diagram, you can see it, the thrombus. This is the ultimate traffic jam. It completely blocks the highway, cutting off all blood flow. If this happens in an artery going to your heart, that's a heart attack. If it's going to your brain, that's a stroke. So from one tiny crack in the pavement all the way to a complete highway blockage, this entire process can take a lifetime to build, often in total, complete silence. Which really leaves just one question, doesn't it? What's the traffic report on your superhighways?